Some of the year's digits we have to think about a little different. Okay, so this is part 2 of the depreciation problem. So let's take a look at this. We're doing sum of the year's digits, partial year. So the depreciable base is still the same. It's still 264,000. But, and how many years was this asset? I forgot already. What's the life of this asset? 10 years. So that's to find the numerator, we have to take 10 times 11 divided by 2, come up with 55. So year 1, we can take 10 55ths. But we only have that for 3/12 of a year. So when you multiply the 10 55ths times the 312 times the 264,000, we come up with 12,000 for year 1. Now, for year 2, we have the other 9/12 of this year plus 3/12 of the following year. So we're entitled to, the depreciable base doesn't change here, 264,000, 264,000. So for the first 9 months up through the end of September, we're entitled to take the 10 55ths, and then for the next 3 months, the remaining 3 months, we have to go to 9 55ths. And that's how we come up with the depreciation, and that works out to 36,000 for this guy, 10,800 for that guy. So the depreciation for the year is 46,800. This is where people make their mistake. They forget that they're entitled to a full year at each rate. Okay, the next one it asks us to do is the double declining balance. And that's not so tough. Because it's based on the straight line rate. We know that. We've got that. So our straight line rate is 10%. Right? 10-year assets, we have 10% straight line rate. So we have 267,000. Remember, we don't take the salvage out. We use the double declining balance method, times 10% times 2 times 3/12, because we only have it for 3/12. So when you work that out, the book value at the beginning of the period will fill it in the way they want us to. It's 267,000. The depreciation rate is 20%, 2 times 10, 3/12. The depreciation expense, when you multiply that out, the depreciation expense comes to 13,350, and that gives us the cumulative depreciation is, since it's the first year, it's still 13,350, and our book value is 13,350 subtracted from the 267, 253,650. That's the only thing you have to make sure that you adjust for 3/12. and then come up with the correct book value. And from that point on, it works exactly the same. 253, 650. It's still 20%. From now on, it's 12/12 until we get to the end. So our depreciation expense now is $50,730. Just work out that. Accumulated depreciation is these two added together. Gives us $64,080. And our book value is 267 minus 6480, and that comes out to 202,920. Okay. Next piece it asks us to do is 150% declining balance. And the reason I want to see the 150% declining balance is students and some textbooks act as if declining balance is always double. Well, it isn't always double. There are times that it's 150%. Or I had a client that did 113%. Sometimes it could be 200% or 300%. Works out to be exactly the same. We're going to do the same thing. We have 267,000 at the beginning, but now our straight line rate is still 10%. But our accelerator, our factor, instead of 2, is 1.5, 150%. And everything else is exactly the same. So 1.5 of 10%, our depreciation rate is 15%. And then we just go through and plug in the numbers. 312, so 15% of 267 times 312, 267 times 0.15 times 3/12 gives us 10,013. And our book value then is the 267 minus that. That's 256,988. And there's a little rounding error in there. And then we bring this over to 256,988 times 15% times 12/12. That's 38,548. Add those together to get the new accumulated depreciation of 48,561. Subtract 48,561 from 267 to get our book value at the end of the year, $218,439. Okay? And the last piece it asks us to do is UNICEF Production. And that's really pretty straightforward. You don't really have to worry about partial year with units of production, because once you figure out the depreciation rate, you just multiply it by the number of years, okay? So when we do that for units of production, let me come up with my numbers so I remember what the hell we were talking about. Okay, we estimated was 267,000 minus 3,000. $267,000 minus 3,000. And we estimated the production for this to be 480,000 units. And when we do that, we come up with 55 cents per unit. The only thing that you have to be careful of is you have to make sure that you multiply the cost per unit by the number of units produced. And in 2013, they tell us they produced 24,000 units. You multiply that, 24,000 units times 55 cents per unit. It's 13,200. And in 2014, they tell us 39,000 units, and when you do that, it comes out to 21,450. So the units of production, you don't have to worry about partial period because it's automatically caught up for, because it's factored into the production for that period.